When someone gets like a devastating call and they learn that they're being fired, what should they do practically in the first 24 to 48 hours?
Don't sign anything. You really think that as soon as something like this happens to you, that everyone's sort of like gossiping and talking about it. And when you walk into the room, I like to say, you feel like you're wearing a scarlet F.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
How do you balance the decision-making between the right now job and the right job?
I think that's a really good question. I mean,
What's up, rich friends, and welcome back to another episode of Net Worth and Chill. I'm your host, Vivian 2, aka your rich BFF and your favorite Wall Street girly. And I always like to say that I'm on my third do-over. First, a Wall Street trader, turned media salesperson, and now a content creator. I like to also consider myself an author, a podcaster, and your rich BFF. I've lived many lives professionally. But here's the reality. Career pivots aren't just common anymore. They're practically inevitable. Whether driven by personal growth, industry shifts, layoffs, or restructuring, most of us will navigate multiple career changes. And right now, the job market feels particularly chaotic. People are confused, frustrated, and honestly just plain defeated. But here's what I want you to know. Getting fired or laid off, it isn't a personal failure. It's often just business. And finding your next opportunity, that's actually a skill we can learn. So today I brought in two experts who live and breathe this stuff every single day. They're going to break down what's really happening in the job market, why career setbacks aren't shameful, and most importantly, how to turn your next opportunity into your best opportunity yet. Everyone, please welcome the authors of the book, All the Cool Girls Get Fired, Laura Brown and Kristina O'Neill.
hi.
Hi. God, that was a glittering intro. Damn, you're good. Hi.
Guys, this is going to be such a great interview. I'm so excited for you to be here with me today. But before we get into everything, I do have one simple question. Why do all the cool girls get fired?
All the cool girls get fired because as you said in your introduction, getting fired is part of the national life now. It's part of the workforce. It's the amount of people losing their jobs is growing and growing and growing. So the cool girls who get fired take it on the chin, own it, and move on.
Wow. Okay. I love that. Take it on the chin. I feel like that's a phrase I need to start incorporating into my
That's the first
daily
time I've used it. I'm like, where did that come from? Yeah.
Despite now being incredibly successful authors and editors at some of the top magazines, the Wall Street Journal, In Style, you two have been both fired before. Can you walk me through kind of what happened in those scenarios?
Sure. We like to let Laura go first because she
okay.
went first chronologically.
Chronologically, not to brag, I was fired first. Yes, I used to be the editor-in-chief of In Style magazine, and in early 2022, we had worked for 3 different companies over my tenure at In Style, and we were bought by a third company and fired. My whole team and I were fired on a Zoom, what they refer to as the print team, and we were all laid off in one fell swoop in February. And it was I was a bit looking around, like thinking I was going to build my own thing at some point, but had no idea we're all going to get absolutely shit canned, all at once. And so that was, I ended up spending a lot of my time sort of tending to my team and trying to be Winston Churchill, even though I was kind of like, where's my money coming from? And then sort of picking up and knowing that I was going to work for myself and not for anybody else, and sort of slowly heading down that road. But Kristina here was canned.
I was one of one. So yes, I was the lucky one the day that I was let go. And essentially there had been some leadership changes at the Wall Street Journal, at the newspaper, at the top of the masthead. There was a new editor-in-chief. And about 8 weeks into her tenure, she let me know that I was not going to be part of the plan going forward. So that was, like Laura said, about 14 months after she was fired. But what happened in the meeting when, she let me know that I was fired, I sort of instantly knew that I had to own what was happening and not to sort of sugarcoat it or spin it or package it in any other way than what was actually happening, which was she was firing me. So, I think that was just something that kind of clicked in the moment, because I knew that if, in addition to the sort of shock and just the rawness that I felt. If I was also trying to carry a lie forward, spinning it, telling people, oh, I'm leaving, I'm going to go do this or that, or, I knew it would be harder for me to sort of build what came next. So it was instantly part of my narrative, if you will.
What do you think is harder, being canned one-of-one or being canned as part of a group on Zoom? By the way, horrible.
Yeah.
Intimate. I don't know. I mean,
they're both pretty special.
Yeah, they're both pretty shit.
Neither one of us had the other one's experience. I think there's something to be said about being part of a community, but that's actually, if you take me and my team and you expand that, being fired, now you are part of a community. But you're not going to find your community unless you admit it.
Yeah.
So, so we are and were a part of a community of hundreds of thousands of people, who get laid off every single day. And what really helps you when you lose your job is oftentimes you can feel very vulnerable, very alone. Women can feel a lot of shame. The minute you kind of put your hand up and go and admit it, same thing with me, because we also got because we had pretty prominent positions, we got press release fired. So I got quote unquote terminated. You know what I mean? So it was very clear that had happened as well. But yeah, there was no interest on both of our parts in spinning it. And the minute we sort of said, no, this happened, or we Instagrammed, or we said whatever, people go oh, wow, that's pretty rad you've done that, actually. Mm-hmm. Oh, this and that. And it just cuts out all this layers of bullshit. Yeah. And it's already hard enough losing a job. It's already hard enough not knowing where your income's coming from. It's already hard enough not knowing how long your healthcare is going to last. All of it, all those vulnerabilities are exaggerated and made worse if you're dishonest about what happened.
Yeah. And you specifically said a line just now. You said women feel a lot of shame when they get fired. The book title includes Cool Girls. Is there something unique about how women experience being fired versus men?
I mean, we think so. And I think part of that is because it took so much longer for us to get there.
In the room.
Just to get in the room, to climb the corporate ladder.
Had to be twice as good to get half as much.
Yeah.
We only got the vote a century ago.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, we do believe that women, take it harder. Take it on the chin harder.
Take it on the butt, when you fall off, you're wrong. No, because you've been, you don't realize what you're necessarily carrying. And then because you are carrying all of womanhood with you in a way, and it does you've clambered up to this rung, whatever it is in whatever sphere you work in, and you're pushed off it, and it just hits harder because we didn't even construct the workplace.
Right.
Men did. All those titles, CEO, CFO, CMO, they're all military, they're all from men. And so that does come with us. And we have no interest in feeling shame. And we want women to lose that shame because, again, it's so unbelievably challenging out there right now. So why would you put a big whole weight inside your chest and carry it around?
We also don't have a lot of fired role models as women.
True.
There aren't many women whose story involves the chapter when they were let go from their jobs, where we have lots of men who have been, pushed out of their companies. Yes. Two examples, that are very, very, public are Mike Bloomberg and Steve Jobs.
Right.
So that's part of their comeback narrative, right? That's part of the legends of Mike and Steve. We don't have many women who...
I can only think of one right now off the top of my head.
Which one have you got?
Whitney Wolford.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, she's about to have a hit film about it. So
yeah. But exactly. Isn't that crazy that you can pull up one?
Yeah. And we interviewed 15 women who are pretty well known in our book who should be on that Mount Rushmore of getting fired, and they're not. So if you can imagine coming up through, whether it's stories we tell ourselves, our daughters, our friends, about women suffering through this sort of fired chapter and coming back a lot stronger, I think it would sort of encourage women to be less ashamed of it when it happens. But that is part of, the cultural conditioning, right? So if we're able with this book to sort of unlock more stories for women to sort of tell each other and more confidence in coming back stronger than ever, then, let that be a silver lining of this sort of horrible dark cloud that, comes with getting fired.
Yeah, it's a job well done.
And you mentioned woman Mount Rushmore of being fired.
There's an image, right?
Yeah. For all the cool girls get fired, you interviewed some absolute powerhouses. I'm talking Oprah, Katie Couric, Jamie Lee Curtis. When you heard all of their stories of being fired, what surprised you the most? And was there like a common thread that like ran through all of the stories?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was muscle memory. It was bizarre. It could be Oprah, who was fired when she was 22. She's, 70 now, 71. Everybody remembered exactly who was in the room, what they said, what they wore, what beverage they had, and the urgency in their voice, it became sort of starker. It's like being fired is actually a key memory in your life, and you don't realize it until you're dredging it up again.
Yeah.
Everyone has that kind of photo memory of that moment,
and
still, some of the women still got quite upset. Even though they'd gone on, and the whole point of the book is like, this lady got fired,
successful.
But she felt like you once, and you feel bad. So did Oprah at this point. And you'd think, the whole idea is like, wow, what do you mean? Nothing bad ever happened to them.
Yeah.
But it did. It did.
Yeah.
I remember it absolutely viscerally.
Yeah, just the fact that they still carry that with them despite all of the success they've had since, I think was just kind of a reminder that it is, when you're going through it, there is grief and you do have to mourn it. It is a loss when you lose your job.
Have you guys seen Inside Out? I feel like it's like one of the...
Which emotion?
I feel like it's like when you get fired is like the sad blue ball.
Yeah.
And it's like a new blue one that goes to the back of your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you carry it with you.
Yeah, and you got to mix it up, and one's got to come to the front.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think that was a surprise to sort of, it didn't take much to get those women back into the room where it happened.
Right.
Which, for better or for worse is, part of it.
What piece of advice from these interviews still gives you chills when you think about it? Like something that like changed your entire perspective?
Well, Sally Krawcheck says something that's so refreshing. That's such a great reminder. We sort of joke that you really think that your network and your peer group, as soon as something like this happens to you, that everyone's sort of like gossiping and talking about it. And when you walk into the room, I like to say, you feel like you're wearing a scarlet F.
Yeah.
You just really feel
not for fabulous.
For
fired and for loser.
Fired. Yeah. And you feel all of this, right? It feels very like, oh my God, I haven't seen that person. Da, da, da. She says very succinctly, nobody cares. And it's such a good reminder because you're carrying all this weight around. You're sort of carrying the shame into the room. You think everyone's like, you walk in and everyone's head's turning. They're not. People have moved on. They don't care. People are self-absorbed. The human race is like worried about itself. So it is a lovely reminder that for all of the things that are playing out in your head, when you walk into a room, carry your head high. No one's sitting there like whispering behind your back. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Oprah said, Oprah's got away with words. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, if you've heard it, but she said the setback is a setup, which is basically a T-shirt slogan. But basically, like the thing that knocks you off your feet is actually there to show you a broader world if you allow yourself to look at it. So, and that's what happened. That's what happened with her. And, Oprah kind of got canned from her newsreader job and sort of furloughed in this kind of crappier reporter job for a year until one day there was a new managing director in and he said, we're thinking of starting a talk show. And that was that. And so if she hadn't had that setback, she wouldn't have been on tap for that show. So but there's wisdom everywhere because everyone has a different experience. You could have been fired from a job, let go from the company you founded, fired by a client, not cast in a role, like all different sorts of
firing looks different for everybody. And I think that's why we wanted such a range of stories. And we have those 15 different women to represent all the different sort of like facets of firing.
God, and hopefully there'll be many, many more afterwards. No, it's been fascinating. We've had like women coming up to us in the street now going, I was fired too, and we can already feel like it's sort of opening that psychological door a little bit, which is exactly the intention of it, not sort of shrinking away and just going, no, me too.
To have those honest conversations.
Yeah. Yep. No more lies, man.
Yeah. Speaking of honesty, can we talk about the elephant in the room? Today's job market, please. It's a very large elephant. You haven't noticed it? Listen, today's job market, to put it lightly, sucks.
Yep.
We're seeing mass layoffs, hiring freezes, and for the first time in decades, we actually have more unemployed people than we do have available decent jobs. Like, how are you guys making sense of this moment that we're currently in?
Yeah, listen, I mean, when we started writing this book 2 years ago, we could have never imagined, you know, the world that
Because you started it when it was like kind of still the Great Resignation, where like a lot of job hunters had this power.
Yes, quiet quitting, the TikTok trend.
Summer 23.
So the employees sort of had the upper hand, but you know, obviously no one could have foretold Doge and the sort of havoc that's been wreaked you know, by both AI and our own government.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, what's interesting at the same time is that's happening. There's so many more opportunities for the individual. And I think that's also new, especially in media, the industry that we come from. What's been exciting to see is how entrepreneurial a lot of our peers who have been fired have become. Probably out of necessity, but also just out of the sheer evolution of the sort of community that, you know, content and news and information is created in. So it's been really exciting to see some of these great, you know, sort of former legacy players sort of pop up on their own. And, you know, there are a lot of tools out there that didn't exist, you know, even 2 years ago. Whether it's, you know, substacking or, you know, all the different sort of
podcasts, for example.
So in media alone, it's been kind of wild to see how self-starter and entrepreneurial a lot of people have become. You know, when Laura was let go, she knew she never wanted to go back into a traditional sort of media company and set up her own business, which I think is what's been really interesting to kind of see a lot of people, not just in media, but a lot of people using the setback to sort of set up things for themselves where they never will feel that, you know, insecurity again in the job market.
Work is no longer linear. You know, the corner office need not be the goal anymore. Sometimes we were quoting a Lean In study and it was saying, you know, there's still only like, maybe it's got up like 4% the amount of women have the corner office. And we're just kind of reading it and going, well, that's, you know, that's a bummer and that's relevant. But why does that need to be the goal? The economy has changed so much. The individual can run their own business from being an individual. You can bake cookies and sell them on TikTok. You know what I mean? There is all of these ways, and it feels like, and look, not everyone's an entrepreneur, and we well know that. But it's hopefully it'll balance. At the moment, it's just like people getting fired. But there is, if you look at this other universe, you know what I mean, and see maybe there's a little piece for you there, because of your passion and your interest and your talent. And you may not have to rely on this setup that we've all been obliged to fall into for so long.
And I love to give my audience, my listeners, some practical advice, but we're going to do emotional too. So I'm going to ask this question twice. But first and foremost, when someone gets like a devastating call and has to sit through that unexpected meeting and they learn that they're being fired, what should they do practically in the first 24 to 48 hours?
Don't sign anything.
Don't sign anything.
Don't sign anything. You don't have to. What happens is, you know, when you're in the room, the dreaded HR, you know, there's a packet of papers or a metaphorical packet of papers on Zoom that comes to you. They need you to sign that. So the ball's actually in your court. Like you can't hold on to it for 6 months, but you actually have a minute. You should not feel pressured in that room because they're looming over you to sign it. You can take it home. You can get some advice. You can call a friend. You can call a lawyer. You can have someone to wait, because they can't move on until you've signed it. You actually, you feel like you have zero power. You have some power in that situation. So take that beat and don't knee-jerk and sign.
Anything else?
Drink. Oh, no, sorry, that doesn't help. No, I think I'll take, 24 to 40 hours. I mean, I always say, like, rest, but don't retreat. Like, take a minute. You need to sleep or whatever, but don't. It is an isolating feeling, but don't isolate yourself on top of that, because people are going to reach out to you. People are going to say, oh, God, that's no good.
I feel like that answers like the emotional of like what you should be doing.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. The emotional can lead to the practical, because it could be the person going like, oh, my God, oh, wow, that happened to you. Actually, I heard about this thing. I heard about this lead. Or heard about that. So the same thing, it's about being open and communicative in one, yes, for your mental health, 1,000%, but also your professional well-being and options down the road is not, you want to go fetal for a minute. Of course you do, and you should, but just calibrate yourself. Don't shut everything off.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you're in the headspace in that 24, 48 hours to make the decision that you are going to own this, that is going to set you up for everything that comes next, instead of starting to sort of spin your spiral of, you know, how you're not actually like getting fired. You know, I think that would be my advice. The sooner you can just sort of acknowledge to yourself what's going on and then set yourself up for those steps. And grief is part of that. So the emotional piece comes. But if you can just switch your brain on to be like, okay, I'm getting fired. This is what's happening. Like, I am present and I'm going to go through my checklist, which is what we sort of outline in the book.
Yeah, it's like your stress list.
What's the best way to put out a bat signal? Am I like writing about this on LinkedIn? Am I like calling friends and family? Like, what am I doing?
Both.
Yeah.
You know, but we say everyone's going to call you, but also call everyone. It's sort of a two-way street. When we got fired, it's a sort of a strange sensation, but I compared it to like reading beautiful eulogies about yourself, but you're still alive. People are telling you you're just terrific, you know, and you've gotten canned. So that's incoming. But yes, put your hand and look, it sounds very Pollyanna. If you've been a good person and you've done good work, people show up for you. They just do. Especially like, this is America. They really do. And so people will, it's a two-way street, but you've got to be open to that for people to, you know.
Yeah, not every person gets a press release sent about their departure.
Bummer.
But I think that there are ways that you can signal to your community, to your peer group, to your industry that you are moving on. But yeah, the first call, you have to call your family. You have to call the people who are going to show up for you spiritually before you can start having those conversations with, you know, an old mentor, former boss, or whatever. But, you know, LinkedIn is obviously a brilliant tool for, you know, sort of entering the workforce. Social media
Open to work.
Yeah.
I know. It's such a big brand. But yeah, but it's honesty, and you don't have to like, it can just be a declarative thing like, my time at blah, blah, blah finished. You know, I'm open to investigating or looking into X and Y and Z. And also the big important thing is, don't spend time dissing your former employer. Don't give that the energy. That doesn't like, in an interview it's bad. It never helps you. So whatever, but you've got to get yourself in that space too. And that might take a minute. Like, I freaking hate them. No. Well, you got to wait till you've
breathe,
stopped simmering,
step away from
the device.
Instagram, from X, from whatever it is. Do not say anything disparaging ever.
No.
Yeah. Okay. And we talked a little bit about the emotional piece, but like so many of us, in particular in like this modern world, tie our self, our identity, our value, our worth as people to our jobs. So like when that gets completely stripped away, it can really feel like you're losing a little piece of you. Like, how do we untangle me versus like what I do? Because I feel like these days you go to a party and you're like, oh, it's not like, oh, who are you? It's what do you do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we come from I always say, we're sort of the tip of the spear of industries that judge you. Literally fashion media judges you on where you sit at a fashion show.
Yeah.
So
are you front row?
We're so, you're not? But like, you know, we come from where it's like the ducks in a pond and you're just trying to look smooth, but your legs are going. So we know this intimately. And I think that if you attach, and a lot of people in our business attach all their value. Yeah. And they think that going to the fashion show in the Côte d'Azur is their life. It ain't. You know what I mean? So I think you've got to it's like a pie. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yes, a piece of the pie is going to be your work. And of course, maybe you love it and you're passionate about it. But you know, and you're stimulated by it. And that's all a good thing. But you've got to have stuff outside. You've got to have your family. You've got to have interests. You've got to have travel. You've got to have something else that makes you. Because if you lose it, job, not to make a pun, but you lose it.
Yeah.
You really lose it. And we've seen people who've just been like beetles on their back for a long time because they couldn't understand who they were without this job. And we had somebody in the book, it was a really great comparison saying, say you were working for X, like, not the actual platform, working for a company. And they said you're like a library book. So the employer borrows you.
Okay.
And you're the book. And they borrow you, your experience, all your personality, your skills.
But they can return me at any time?
They can return you, but you're still the book. You didn't lose everything. So all your knowledge.
I like that.
Yeah, all your knowledge and all your experience is still yours. And the problem is so many of us can forget it. But it's always been there.
That is one of the other sort of bonuses of getting fired is that in that in-between time before you decide if you're setting up shop for yourself or you're going to start, toe dipping back out in the market, you are forced to sort of make sure you have all of those pieces of the pie, right? Like when work is taken away, suddenly all these other things become really important. So when you start something new, hopefully you don't go in where you give yourself like 100% just to the job, because you've now kind of reignited and re-engaged with all of these other things that should fill you up too. But yeah, we see it all the time. It's easier said than done. And I think it is, something that if you can go into whatever comes next, where you sort of force yourself to, put down the phone on a Saturday night, don't reply all to an email at an inappropriate time for your colleagues to sort of be like,
what's wrong with her?
I really think that is a benefit of, what comes next is you're forced to really look at all those other things.
Being shocked into a bigger life.
Yeah. And speaking of like taking time, like we're hearing people are now saying that like being unemployed is like a longer status. Like it's taking people 6 months on average now to find a job. Like it feels like this job search process is really broken. Like how can people cut through the noise and find these opportunities?
Man, I mean, look, we were just reading this terrible piece in the Times the other day about how college educated, it was always a presumption that if you're college educated, it's going to be easier for you to get a job. And there's people out of work for 6 months, a year longer. Man, I mean, I think that, being clear on who you are and what you really want. And there's Ron Lieber, New York Times money columnist, actually gave us one of the most empathetic pieces of advice. And he said, like, we all have different amounts of time where we can take a minute to think about what we want to do. Like, guess what? If you have more money, you have more time. We know that. But he said, everyone has some time to think about what gave you more happiness, what made you feel happy or less happy over the course of your career. And what could you do going forward to increase the happiness and decrease the unhappiness? And so I think that sometimes, and again, people need to work, people need money, and we understand that. But I think if you're perhaps going too general and blanketing things and being too knee-jerk and not really listening to yourself, I think that might prolong. You know what I mean? If you're just like, oh, I'm going to just spray all of these employers with my application, and it's like, actually, do I really want that? Do I really feel good about that? But no, we sadly cannot correct the terrible state of the job market, but what we can do is say that if you don't say you need help and you don't own it, it's going to be longer. That terrifying time period is going to be longer.
What about like when you have an offer in hand and you're like, I don't like really want to do this, but I kind of need the money. How do you balance the decision-making between the right now job and the right job?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, listen, I think it took me 6 months after I was let go to find or to move, to make the decision to move to it, to accept the role that I'm in now. But, that took a lot of conversations. It took a deep understanding about how the market, what the landscape was, right? So if it's not the right job for right now, it's the right job for whatever you said.
The right now job.
The right now job versus the like forever job. I think that will come after having kind of really done a lot of research over the time period to understand, like, is this the best opportunity that's going to present itself, like, for now, for the next 6 months, for the next year? And maybe those are factors, worth considering. But I think you have to do a ton of research and a lot of soul searching. And I think one of the things that people sort of forget is how transferable their skills are to different industries. We work in an industry where people just sort of assume like, oh, this is what I've always done. I'm just going to get a job at a same company, different title, same, title, different building, like whatever the just sort of plug and play is. And I think if you give yourself the opportunity to really sit down and think about what your skill set is, there are a lot of industries that could probably benefit from that. They just might not be the ones that are obvious. And so doing a lot of research, you have to do a lot of research. You have to take a lot of meetings and a lot of phone calls and kind of understand the landscape. And then I think that will help understand if the job is right for the minute or right for the long haul.
But I think the landscape has also changed because back when we were coming up, they're in the job less than 2 years. They must be dodgy. That must be, they're not reliable. That is gone.
Yeah.
We're in a gig economy along with everything else. You can have 4 things going at once. You can have nothing. You can have overlap. That stuff, there's less judgment there now.
Yeah.
So
no one's looking at your resume like in the old days where you're like,
magnifying
glass up to, a perfect candidate. No one's poking holes in all of that.
So say if you do need a job for right now because you have kids and they need healthcare,
right.
I mean, then you're going to have to take it. And that's all right, but you can still keep your eye on the prize and see where you want to be. Everyone's situation is different, but I really think that it's not even silver, whatever the crappy lining of this crappy situation is there is less judgment in the workplace now if you're making changes.
Mm. We're not doing the 40 years, same company, climb the corporate ladder
stuff.
Yeah.
No.
So kind of it's like the same question, but the different other side of the coin is like nowadays young people are actually quitting jobs without something lined up.
Right.
They're just choosing to leave. But I was always told, because of the scary resume gap thing, you should never leave one job without having another lined up.
Right.
What is your guys' perspective on that?
I mean, I didn't. And I'm not the youth. I mean, bless sweet, sweet youth. The guilelessness you have, when you're young is wonderful. I think you've got to listen to your soul a little bit. And it's like, look, kids, if they can leave a job and then maybe they have no savings and they're going to have to get a job. At our age, maybe we've got a little bit of savings that we can live on for a little bit. So all those situations are different. I just don't feel like there's this sort of like sometimes we also tell the kids, couldn't you just sit down and focus for a minute and work a little bit? You know what I mean? There's not as much obligation, as there used to be in our era, and I think the ideal is somewhere in between the two. You understand the nuances of this universe, but then that generation is growing up with TikTok. That they're growing up with I can be an influencer and make money. So it's I know, is there a child here we can ask them? But I think that sort of behavior in the job market is really fascinating because there's options open that we are exploring, at our age, but we didn't have.
So the study, I think, was that like over 50% of children younger than 18, when asked what is their dream job, they said YouTuber or like vlogger or like whatever it was.
Bless.
I guess my question for you is, do you think this is a good direction to overall take your career and the economy? Just knowing that like as someone who does create content full time, I feel incredibly grateful to know that I'm part of the 0.1% that can afford to do this full time and make a living doing this. And
you're living the dream.
Pay for a team to help me, run the podcast and, all of these things. But like most content creators cannot make ends meet. They have to do it on top of having a full-time job. Like, do you encourage people to go down that route?
If it's your skill, it's like any skill in life. It's like, I could be a journalist. Am I a good writer? I want to be a doctor. Have I done my study? I think it's all well and good to say I want to be because it looks cool and everyone's doing a dance on TikTok and everything and they got some free handbags. But not everyone's going to be compelling enough in that world. And sometimes you'll learn it sooner rather than later. But I'm sure when we were like growing up, I'm sure we wanted to be models or whatever the thing. But you know what I mean? Like movie stars or all
like
of
I also
stuff.
wanted to be a basketball player, but I'm 5'6", so that's not happening.
Exactly. But we all wanted to be shiny things.
Yeah.
What we thought, oh my God, what's their life like? And we all had our shiny avatars when we grew up.
Of course.
And I think the shiny avatars now are these kind of content creators and influencers, and they are our movie stars and models. Right. And I think that
they also feel a little more within reach, right?
Right.
Like it does, there are kids like Justin Bieber who
get found on YouTube and become famous.
Yeah.
And
but he's like
I
one
think
in
now
a billion.
they're famous for 15 seconds, not 15 minutes, like in the
but it's the same,
Andy Warhol era.
It's the same hill to climb in a way. You know what I mean? It's just a different reference.
What about fresh graduates? Because right now it feels like they're kind of stuck in this impossible catch-22. They want to get hired with experience, but you can't get experience without being hired. It seems like I had to have started working before birth to finally be qualified for the job I want. Like, what is your advice for breaking into a market when you're starting from zero?
Yeah, I mean, listen, goes back to the research and the understanding and the studying and the really knowing how that industry is, cracked open.
What your DNA is.
Yeah, and whether or not you're, the right fit for it. I think interning, finding a mentor, cold reaching out to people who have the career you wish you had. I mean, that's how I ended up where I am. I cold called Candace Bushnell on a payphone because I wanted to interview her for a school paper and became her assistant not long after. So, I think sometimes it takes a little bit of moxie, but I think most of the time it takes just a real, almost like clinical understanding of the industry that you're interested in and how you can, whether it's, applying through, a program that fast tracks people, whatever that
sticking your hand
takes.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But being in front of the right people and in front of the opportunity.
It's kind of old-fashioned, but it's the same thing. It's like putting your hand up, knowing the references in the interview with the person. You can both see the same thing and feeling like comfort in what you're talking about. As a kid as well, it's like, oh, I really am interested in fashion or whatever it is, and just knowing that that's where you spend your time, that's where your heart is and where your knowledge is, as opposed to like, oh, I feel like I should go to this law firm, for example, because my mom said, and I go into that room and I feel ick and I don't feel like myself and I don't feel. You got to listen to that. Sometimes it's like listening to your inner kid in a way.
But we also grew up in an era where you really did have to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I think
low.
Yeah, really low. So I think knowing that, like, what is the bottom of the industry and not having the expectation that you're going to leapfrog to the top in, 2 years, because it doesn't work that way.
Get someone a sandwich. It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay to go get someone's coffee.
Yeah. I've done many a coffee run.
And us too.
So I guess talking about the bottom, we have to say the two scariest words to ever hit the job market in recent times, AI. Mm-hmm. How are we feeling?
Ooh, it was funny. I was just saying to Kristina the other day, because what are we? 51, Christina's 49. And I was just sort of laughing. It's a hollow laugh, to be clear, that we're quite fortunate that, one, we didn't grow up with the internet, thank God. And two, we're sort of too established in our creative sphere to be replaced by AI. So we're like, and everyone goes like, the mythology is like, oh, when you're 50, it's harder for you. We kind of snuck through these two gates.
Yeah. Literally, like while the door was closing.
While the door was closing, like in the action movie, I think, AI is, we're the first ones to jump on ChatGPT whenever we have a question. It is scary. I think if you're in a creative business, I think I happen to believe you'll be all right, because I think AI used as a tool, not used as the master of things, is where it should land. But who knows? I mean, there was an AI actress created the other day, but there was a big furor, about that.
No one would represent her.
No one would represent her. She wasn't allowed to sit at the lunch table. But it's I was reading in that same piece, I was talking about someone who was a coder, a man who, like, people who write code, people in tech whose job can be so easily done by AI. I don't have the answer to that because.
I mean, listen, I think it is like we're early days. And again, I think it does go back to studying, learning, absorbing everything, how it applies to your industry, how you can use it to fulfill your sort of objectives and goals. But, it's early days, and I don't think anyone really has the roadmap for how it's going to disrupt.
So say you guys are 21 again, but now it's 2025. What piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
I think it would be the same. Show up. Show up in the workplace or with the people with whom you want to work. Look at them online, follow them on social. Really steep yourself in that business. That sort of stuff, actually, AI aside, tech aside, that stuff still stands. Going into the meeting with the person that you want to work for and speaking to them and impressing them, and people want to meet with people. We're not meeting with a robot. We're not hiring code. We're hiring people. So I think that some of it, sometimes things just stand in the old-fashioned ways and the Pollyanna ways, like I was saying, be nice, do good work, show up, be humble. Really, really important, which I think is something that is getting lost now, because everyone's like, oh, can I just be famous? Sure, that was go the same from when we were 21 then to 21 now. Yeah,
I mean, I spent the first 30 years working, like it never occurred to me that one day I'd get fired. So I think it's also just a great reminder to my younger self that it all works out and everything is going to be okay.
Oh, I love that. That's like a really good warm ending. Where can everybody get their hands on your book, and what is the best way to follow your work and stay connected with you guys?
You can purchase All the Cool Girls Get Fired on your whatever bookstore retailer you enjoy, online or off. We're also, our social is All the Cool Girls Get Fired. So is our website. Our respective socials are at Laura Brown 99 and at Kristina O'Neill for a good time. And but we're touring around for the next 6 weeks or so. And I have to say, anybody who's written us, we have a huge amount of women who've written us on DM or text, and there's so much need out there. And we've responded to each and every single one of them. Again, know that we're going out there to meet the community, but the community is there for you. So stick your hand up, say this happened. And yeah, sure, read this book. But in the same token, like, really listen to yourself, and it is going to be okay.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Net Worth and Chill, part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. If you like the episode, make sure to leave a rating and review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Got a burning financial question that you want covered in a future episode? Write to us via podcast@yourrichbff.com. Follow Net Worth and Chill Pod on Instagram to stay up to date on all podcast-related news. And you can follow me at yourrichbff for even more financial know-how. See you next week. Bye!